Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Nitago Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitago Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Acharya Astottara Sata Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Astottara Sata Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Braja Bhumi Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dhama Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Kalachanji Dhama Ki Jai. Transcendental Books and Prashadam Distribution Ki Jai. December Marathon Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. The Holy Disappearance Day is the Divine Grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. So the remaining program for today is shortly we will have class, and following class we'll have a break, and then at 11 o'clock we'll have another class again on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur given by His Grace Nityananda Prabhu. At 11:45 we'll do offerings, prashadam offerings to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then at 12 o'clock we will have kirtan, followed by a sumptuous prashadam feast at 1 o'clock. So please come back at 11 to continue the program today. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. I think just left. You can give it to me. Sure. Yeah, very kind. Sorry, it was a busy day yesterday. Thank you.
We'll be reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit, Madhya Leela, chapter number 10, verse 178. In case anybody wants to look on the cell phone. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda CC Madhya 10:178. Advaita Vitti Patike Rupasya Swananda Simhasana Labdha Diksha Shathena Kenapi Vayam Hathena Dasi Krita Gopavadhu Vitena Advaita Vitti Patike Rupasya Swananda Simhasana Labdha Diksha Shathena Kenapi Vayam Hathena Dashi Krita Gopavadhu Vitena Madhya 10:178. Vaishnav, want to? Advaita Vitti Patike Rupasya Swadhanmasana Labdha Diksha Shaina Kenapi Vayam Hathena Dashi Krita Gopavadhu Vitena Advaita Vitti Patike Rupasya Swananda Simhasana Labdha Diksha Sathena Kenapi Vayam Hathena Bhavadodena. Translation. Brahmananda Bharti concluded, although I was worshipped by those on the path of monism and initiated into self-realization through the yoga system, I have nonetheless been forcibly turned into a maidservant by some cunning boy who is always joking with the gopis. Purport. This is a verse written by Bilwa Mangal Thakur. It is quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 3.1.44. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Panghum Langhayate Grim Yat Kripahat Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Deenatarinam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Radhanath Swami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. I seek blessings of all the devotees assembled in person and online as well, so that I might be able to say something which can help in our journey of Krishna consciousness. Purport. This is a verse written by Bilwa Mangal Thakur. It is quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 3.1.44. So, Bilwa Mangal Thakur, he was a saint in the 9th century, almost 1100 years ago, or at least 1000 years ago. But we are still speaking his words. His words are still being repeated. Krishna appeared 5000 years ago, and his words are still being repeated. All glories to all the devotees, who continue to share the message with everyone. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he left this planet around 48 years ago. But his words are still being repeated. And we are living in Dallas. So for us, Srila Gurudev, he left this planet around 23 years ago. And his disciples, they continue to live by his instructions. And his words are still being repeated. So it is also the disappearance day, and for sure there will be one more class later on. But somehow I thought of speaking on the same theme. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he also left this planet in 1936, almost 90 years ago. And his words are still being repeated. So in Krishna consciousness, there is the Vapu and there is the Vani. Vapu is the physical presence, being in the physical presence of the spiritual master. And Vani is listening to his words, his lectures, his instructions, his guidance. And if one is sincere, one can make all advancement in Krishna consciousness by surrendering to the Vani. Again, I'm not, these are heavy words which I'm repeating, which I've heard. These are not my words, so I'm also, I might be speaking some high principles, but it's not that I'm there. I'm also myself aspiring to be there. And the statement I heard is deepest vapu is when we surrender to Vani. There are two aspects. One is serving with the spiritual master, and the second aspect is serving the spiritual master. Serving with the spiritual master, there are some special souls who get that opportunity and they serve with the spiritual master while the spiritual master is physically present. But several devotees may not get that association. But we can always serve the spiritual master, serve the words of the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada, he never asked too many questions to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Prabhupada, he met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur few times, but he used to listen a lot. And he was a very good listener. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also acknowledged that. So he used to listen more. And his main question, first when Srila Prabhupada met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in 1922, there was a discussion and directly, he got the order, please preach the message of the Lord in English language. And then, in multiple instances, he got the same instruction. And in 1936, Srila Prabhupada, he wrote a letter around the same time, December 9 or 10. Welcome, Mr. Bhagwan Prabhu. So he got the same, he wrote a letter to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and he said, I am a grahastha. I'm not able to serve you directly like so many other sannyasi godbrothers, brahmachari godbrothers, but I want to serve. How shall I serve you? And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in couple of weeks, he replied back and he said the same thing. Preach the message of the Lord in English language. It will do good for you and others as well. So Srila Prabhupada, he made that instruction as his life and soul. And a week or 10 days later, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he departed from this world. So we were saying deepest vapu is when we surrender to Vani. So, Srila Prabhupada also mentioned several times that, he made this as the only whole and soul purpose in his life. And at our level, if we try to meditate, on a very practical means, it means that anything we do, we try to please our spiritual master. When we say making Krishna as the center of our life, when we say making the words of the spiritual master as the center of our life, in practical terms, it means whatever we do, we always put a question in front of us. What will please my spiritual master? What will please my Guru Maharaj? And it's everywhere. It's not that, in some aspects of life we can ignore it, and in some aspects of life we will, try to follow this principle. So it's every moment we try to live by that consciousness. And that basically means, most of us, or most of the members in the Krishna Consciousness Society are grihasthas. So it means we deal with our spouses in such a way that spiritual master is pleased. It means we deal with our children in such a way that our spiritual master is pleased. It means deal with our parents in such a way that our spiritual master is pleased. It means we deal with our God brothers and God sisters in such a way that the spiritual master is pleased. It also means we deal with our temple authorities in such a way that the spiritual master is pleased. So then, if that is the mood, and that is the consciousness which we aspire for, then we are with our spiritual master, and we have the deepest vapu. When Srila Prabhupada, he got, I think before initiation or after, there was an offering which Srila Prabhupada, he wrote for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And one of the stanza in the offering was, absolute is sentient, thou has proved, impersonal calamity thou has removed. And when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he read the offering, he was very, very pleased with Srila Prabhupada. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada understood the heart of his Guru Maharaj. So when we are serving our spiritual master, we should not, take it very, very lightly. Even though, he might be there through Vapu or through his Vani. If we are sincere, eventually we will understand the heart of our spiritual master. And it's a blessing. We cannot demand it. We cannot be certified that we understand the heart of. There is no exam we can write by which we can say, yes, we have understood the heart of our spiritual master. It's the transcendental system which operates on a very different level. Yes, we should study Srila Prabhupada books, we should give the exams, we should try and pass all the certifications. But the most important component is serving with sincerity and dedication. And then when we persist, because lot of challenges come, lot of misunderstandings will come. But when we persist and we continue trying and trying and trying, then one day Guru and Krishna are pleased. And then they can reveal all what needs to be done to please them. Through some devotees, through some billboards, through some lectures, some colleagues. They have a lot of instruments they can use to guide us, to purify us. I'll read a little from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, chapter number, volume 1, chapter 4. How shall I serve you? Abhay went on listening to his spiritual master at every opportunity. But rarely did Abhay put a philosophical inquiry before him. He preferred simply to listen. Srila Prabhupada, I never asked my spiritual master a question except one: how shall I serve you? And when we reach to that conclusion and our only aspiration is how can I serve you, then we can tell ourselves we are on the right track. But if most of the time we are just debating philosophically and trying to understand things, we may understand it theoretically, but all the philosophy is digested when we try and serve with the mood to please. And we will know what those instructions specifically means. The scriptures, they are compared to a cow. So the cow can give milk, but if we are not expert cowboy, then the blood can come out. So the same lines which Srila Prabhupada said, which are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can totally be tangent and misunderstand it. So be properly situated. This is the foundational principle, that we are not trying to argue or be a scholar, but we are only aspiring how we can serve. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta passed away from the mortal world on January 1st, 1937. He had been spending his last days reading Chaitanya Charitamrita and chanting on his beads. When a doctor had visited him, wanting to give him an injection, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta had protested. Why are you disturbing me in this way? Simply chant Hare Krishna. That's all. Amongst his last words to his disciples were, if a person is giving instruction on his last moments of his life, we can understand this is the summum bonum, or the summary of all his instructions. We'll try to go slowly on this paragraph. I advise all to preach the teachings of Rupa Raghunath with all energy and resources. So preaching is the essence. And different devotees have been blessed with different capacities, with different skills, and we should try and do that with, through our best capacity. The instruction applies differently for different people, but the principle remains the same. One must preach. Preach doesn't only mean, giving classes. Preach means to live by what we are talking about. There was a statement that we should preach always, and we can speak sometimes, if necessary. Thank you, Nashing Rupa Prabhu. So that's the first line. And as I was saying, that it applies differently for different people. A person who is very small, a student in college, he should study very nicely. That's his preaching. A person who is doing a job, he should do his job properly. That is preaching. A person who is married and have children should take care of the family and be a responsible grahastha. That's his or her preaching. So preaching is, we are always preaching, but the nature of preaching keeps evolving. We cannot be in the same mood and continue serving the same way. When we were single, it changes when we get married. It changes when we have children. It changes when we are old. But we always preach. There's a story, one disciple, like she had a child, and she was a very sincere disciple, and she used to come to the temple every morning for Mangalarti for several years. And when she got married, she kept coming. And she had a child, she kept coming. And then her spiritual master told her, now your service, the topmost service, is to take care of your child. So he told her not to come for the Mangalarti. So that is why, it's very, very important that we have some guidance in our life from senior devotees who are around us, so that we learn through their experience. One thing we gain in this world is experience. And not everything, we can learn just by reading. There are certain things we learn by experience. For sure, it is best that if we learn by listening, and we don't have to experience. But generally, we learn through the school of hard knocks. So one should preach always. Our ultimate goal shall be to become the dust of the lotus feet of Sri Rup and Raghunath Goswamis. So dust of the feet of Sri Rup and Raghunath Goswamis. Dust means we try to follow in their footsteps. And that reminds that even Rup and Raghunath Goswami, they were not the associates of Lord Chaitanya through Vapu. They met Lord Chaitanya only few times. And then to serve his instructions, they went to Vrindavan to excavate all the holy places and write the books on devotional service. So that's another example of serving the Vani. And if we'll see, it's a common theme. The devotees, those who are still serving, one common thing amongst them is that they constantly listen to Srila Prabhupada and they try to live by those instructions. Now the next instruction. You should always work conjointly under the guidance of your spiritual master with a view to serve the absolute knowledge, the personality of Godhead. So for a father, his most important desire is that the children should continue to have love and affection and they serve each other very well. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying that please continue to work conjointly. He's not saying independently. He's saying conjointly. And as the time is progressing, things are not so easy. To work with devotees who come from so many different backgrounds, who have, you can say, apparently on the surface level, differences. How they speak, how they behave, how they serve. There are so many differences, but Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, we need to raise above that platform and keep this higher principle and work conjointly under the guidance of your spiritual master with a view to serve the absolute knowledge. You should live somehow or other without any quarrel in this mortal world, only for the service of Godhead. You should live somehow or other without any quarrel in this mortal world, only for the service of Godhead. So quarrel and hypocrisy are the two symptoms of this age. And it's not easy. There are two problems currently. If we work with someone, we quarrel. And if we step back and go away, we are lonely. So we suffer in both the situations. When we are lonely, we suffer. When we are quarreling, we suffer. It's definitely we should not quarrel. But the second choice, always to remain in the association of devotees, is better than being lonely. So take a service, do the service as per the authorities decide, and try not to quarrel. There will be thousands of reasons to quarrel. Right, justified reasons to quarrel. But it's being mature to step back and let the authorities decide how to come out of that particular quarrel and try to support. Do not, please, give up the service of Godhead in spite of all dangers, all criticisms, and all discomforts. So there are situations where we might have to give up our service. One is we give up because it is hard, it's dangerous, we are criticized, or it is discomfortable. It's not comfortable, it's discomfort. And the other reason we give up our services when the authorities, they have different plans. And if they ask us to give up our service through guidance of senior Vaishnavas, senior devotees, we should be able to give up that service. Because it's not important that I serve the Lord. What is more important is that the Lord must be served. Several times I have experienced myself, this is my service. And we become attached to our service. Yes, we should get attached to our service. And we should do that service with our heart to the best of our capacity and give our best. But when the situations demand, we should be able to give it up as well, with the purpose that the service to the Lord needs to continue. And it's not easy. The service which we do for several years, the service which keeps our connection with our spiritual master, with the Lord, if it is for the good, we must be able to give it up as well. And then that's the higher service, is to please what is better as a whole community, as a whole society, what is better. Do not be disappointed. For most people in the world do not serve the personality of Godhead. Do not give up your own service, which is your everything and all. Neither reject the process of chanting and hearing of the transcendental holy name of the Lord. So it's not that we give up the service, because the Lord is infinite. He has infinite services. And if I can say, today is also Rupanuga Prabhu's calendar appearance day. So please wish him when you see him, or connect through him. We are connected through WhatsApp. As a service to his spiritual master, he continues to encourage everyone in their service, big or small. Apparently, he may not be visible, in the temple so much, but he is there, and he keeps encouraging all of us as a service to his spiritual master. So, that's the example which came. And it's not that he's not serving. He's serving, and he's doing even a higher service of encouraging others to be closer to the Lord. And when we encourage others to get closer to the Lord, we get even more closer to the Lord. That's how the science of Krishna consciousness works. And if you see Mother Chandravali, Kumkumangi Mataji, I'm sorry if I'll miss the names. Manjuli Mataji, Nityanand Prabhu, Durashay Prabhu, Narottam Anand Prabhu, Shaligram Prabhu, Kunti Mataji, Shakuntala Mataji, Panda Vijay Prabhu, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. Personally, these are my inspiration. Mishra Bhagavan Prabhu. Sucharya Mataji. They are holding on. It's not easy to what so many of these devotees are going through. But they continue serving. The service may not be the physical service, but the service is to continue serving the words, the instructions of their spiritual master. You should always chant the transcendental name of Godhead with patience and forbearance like a tree, and humbleness like a straw. There are many amongst you who are well qualified and able workers. We have no other desire whatsoever. So, as we are crossing the milestones in our life, I was 20, then I was 30, then I was 40, and in some years I will be 50. Our perspective of the world keeps changing. So in the initial phase, I used to think, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to accomplish this. And then, when we are moving forward and we are seeing that the layer on top of us, our superiors, our elders, they are living one by one. Then we are in a phase of life where we see it's coming. Then the seminar or the lecture is not how to live in this world. Then the internal consciousness becomes how to leave this world. So life is the preparation and death is the examination, and we need to prepare for that. We don't know how much time we have, but we know it will come. So with all sincerity, we should chant. Slowly our body will not allow us to do the physical services which we used to do. I'm not the same what I used to be when I first came in this community. Always jumping around, doing so many things, at least running around, whatever I was told to do. So our body may not allow us to serve more and more. But our consciousness, we need to prepare by absorbing in hearing, in chanting, in reading, and use our senses to the best capacity they allow us to absorb Krishna consciousness. Because whatever will go in now will come out when the time will come. So we need to absorb as much as possible. In his last days, he had remained fully conscious and had given instructions until the end. He had specifically and openly ordered that the affairs of the Gaudiya Math be maintained by a 12-man governing body, which the devotees should select amongst themselves. Finally, he had said, "Please accept my blessings to you all, present and absent. Please bear in mind that our sole duty and religion is to spread and propagate the service to the Lord of his devotees." 5:30 a.m. on January 1st, he breathed his last. So we started with the theme that, Bilwa Mangal Thakur, He was there thousands of years ago. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur almost 190 years ago. But we are still trying to understand their mood. We are still trying to understand their mission. And to our best capacity, we will try our best to serve, to spread and propagate the mission which they wanted us to do. On these days we reflect on all these things which come to our mind, which can distract. In the nature of the world is we get distracted. There are so many distractions in this world. Especially when we fly from Dallas to Delhi to go to Vrindavan. You have no choice. Like even how long we can keep our eyes closed, and there are screens on every seat. There are so many different types of movies and this and that which is coming. So we can get distracted. So that we don't get distracted, we need to have a very stable, consistent practice, our sadhana, so that we remain focused. I also wrote some of the quotes, by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But I'll just conclude with one, the most important, which I feel, is don't try to see Krishna. Serve Krishna in such a way that he wants to see you. So it's not important that I serve Krishna. What is more important, that Krishna is pleased. If Krishna is pleased by me serving them, let that happen. If Krishna wants someone else to serve, let that happen. And generally, we only hear he was a lion guru. He was very intense. But there is the intensity, but there also was the sensitivity. He was very, very sensitive. Once one brahmachari, he joined the ashram, and he was new, and he was looking for someone to give him soap and other things which you need to live in the ashram. And he could not find anyone, and he directly went to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw this boy, he said, "How can I serve you?" Then he said, "I'm looking for soap." Then Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur called the manager or the devotee in charge, and he told him, please give him the soap and all whatever he's need to stay in the ashram. And he saw that the manager was not happy. So while they were leaving, he told him, please don't scold him, because manager was upset, why you did not come to me, why you directly went to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So before they left, he corrected the authority and he said, please don't get angry at this boy. He did not know anyone else. That's why he came to me. He was not trying to bypass you. There is another instance. There was a brahmachari or a resident in the temple, and somehow he misbehaved, and the temple authorities, they told him to leave. Please, you cannot continue. And when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he came for the grand festival. I don't know what specific celebration was there, but it was a grand festival and everything was done so nicely. And when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he came, somehow he remembered that brahmachari and he did not see him. And he said, where is this person? And he said, the authorities informed him, he misbehaved, and he was told to leave the temple. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, we are not having this festival till the time this devotee is back. So somehow the brahmacharis, they knew that this devotee, he knew how to repair watches. So they went to different watch repair shops, and eventually they found this person and they brought him back. There was another instance when one person, he went to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and he said, my wife, she died and I did not cry. In his understanding of Krishna consciousness, that was the sign of advancement. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he told him, if you cannot cry for your wife, how will you cry for Krishna? So, these personalities, Srila Gurudev, so many times we hear he was so intense and heavy, but he was very sensitive as well, from what I hear. He made arrangements for so many devotees because he knew in future they will need a house to stay. So he arranged for different grahast, because at that time everybody used to live in the temple. But slowly things changed, and the brahmacharis and the brahmacharinis, they started living outside. And he arranged accommodations, houses for those devotees to live, because he knew that was the need of the hour. So these personalities, they're not only strict and heavy and that's one side. They're also very soft. So we should not only take one side and try to imitate them. We should try to understand their heart, whole and soul, and which can only happen when we try to serve them with sincerity and dedication, with an intention to please them. Thank you very, very much. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any corrections or questions, please?
What did he say, that you should be as humble as a trough? Did I hear that right?
It says, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, you should always chant the transcendental name of Godhead with patience and forbearance like a tree, and humbleness like a straw. Straw.
Straw. Okay. I was the other day, a devotee that used to come to the temple all the time, got initiated, and never comes anymore, So she was telling me, because of the way Hari Bol Prabhu treated her, she felt insulted, and that man is evil, and I can't go to the temple anymore because he's there. And this is not unusual. Often when I meet somebody who's left Krishna consciousness, it's almost always because they weren't treated right. There was somebody that insulted them. They weren't given enough respect. They felt insulted. But everybody has pretty much the same experiences, right? We all are trying to become Krishna conscious. We're all trying to do some service, and some people leave and just give it up and blame it on the management, and the other people stay and stick it out. And so my question is, since everybody receives pretty much the same treatment, why do some people feel like it's not enough or it's not right, and then other people feel like, well, I can tolerate that. I'll just be like a straw and deal with it, or tolerant like a tree. I mean, look how tolerant the trees are. They're out there in Kalachandji Park. You know, they never complain. So, what is it that some people can become humble and adjust, and then other people just can't handle it?
Thank you, Mr. Bhavan Prabhu. How many years back did you get initiated? January of 19? 15 January. Oh wow. 50 years back, Mr. Bhavan Prabhu got initiated. Thank you, Prabhuji, for your example. Yes, it's not easy. You know, when Srila Prabhupada was physically present in this world, there were so many devotees in America. And when he left, things were not easy. You know, it's not easy to go through this loss. And that we, like most of the devotees, they did not join the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. They joined Srila Prabhupada. Because in Prabhupada they saw a person who loves them, who accepts them as they are, and is their true well-wisher. So that is good. That is why there is so much emphasis on hearing and listening. The Vapu may not be there all the time, but we should know how to serve and surrender to the words of the spiritual master. So everybody is on their individual journey, and it's a journey of several lifetimes, millions of lifetimes. And we don't know which part of the journey one specific soul is in. So never judge that this person left because he was disobedient, this person left. We don't know. But for ourselves, we should learn from that. And not try to do the things, or rather focus on the things which we should do. We should listen to the words of our spiritual master. We should try to serve. And as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, and I had these two quotes, but somehow I did not get time to talk. The first quote, it says, "When faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, and find faults in yourselves. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself." Second one, look within, amend yourself, rather than pry into frailties of others. There are two journeys. One is journey home, and the second is journey within. When we meet devotees, when we get initiated, when we join the Hare Krishna movement, we are home. This is our home. But the journey doesn't end once we reach home. The journey within begins. And the journey within, when we do, it's not easy, because we have so many mountains of anarthas within us. Lust, anger, envy, illusion, pride, and ego. It's not easy to let go of these things. And when other devotees or people in this world or circumstances become instruments in purifying us, we need to be forbearant. And we get all that strength by holding on to our vows. The most important one is to chant. And we must chant as attentively as possible, so that we can go deep in our Krishna consciousness. And when the storms in this world will come, if our roots are deep, we will be able to withstand. Otherwise, and it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. There will be trying circumstances, and there will be all reasons to quit, to give up, to leave. But we will be able to hold on. And most importantly, we must have some close friends with whom we can reveal our heart. That friendship is very, very important. Even Sudama and Krishna, they went to the forest. They got stuck in the forest. They gathered the wood, but it started raining so heavily they could not return to the ashram the same night. So they had to stay there. So they were holding the sticks in one hand, which was the mission of their spiritual master. And with the other hand, they were holding each other. So Krishna consciousness journey is that journey of friendship. We should have friends in Krishna consciousness. We need to serve Srila Prabhupada. That is our mission. But we also need to hold each other's hands. If someone is behind or struggling, it's okay to slow down and give a hand. So that's what I think. Thank you, Mr. Bhagwan Prabhu.
Prabhu, thank you so much for the very thoughtful and mature class. I was appreciating so many points, but I guess I'll touch on two that really stood out to me. Is one was, the quote about preach always, but speak only if necessary. And the other was when you were speaking about how we deal with others in a way that will be pleasing to our spiritual master. I was remembering a class that Tamal Krishna Maharaj gave at his last Vyas Puja here in Dallas. And this was the class after all the devotees made their offerings. He was speaking. And he said that wouldn't it be so nice if we dealt with every living entity, if we had as much love for others as we have for our spiritual master, for the other devotees. And then he took it a step further. He said, actually, wouldn't it be so nice if we had that same love for every living entity as we had for our spiritual masters? And I was just thinking, the many of the things you said, touching on Tamal Krishna Maharaj was so strong, but also had so much, he was so personal and so soft in other ways. And how those tie together, that, the way that we deal with each other and treat each other is also like preaching without talking, right? The way that we interact with the devotees will show others our philosophy in action. And if we do that in such a way that's pleasing to our spiritual masters, like all of it is so tied together. And just appreciating so much the mature view that you were sharing on preaching and sharing Krishna consciousness, that the Prabhupada put so much emphasis on us boiling the milk, and us developing our own Krishna consciousness. And by doing that, others will see naturally the philosophy in action. They will see us living it, and they will become attracted, and they'll naturally ask questions and wonder what's different. Mother Jayanti shared a really nice story about many of the Gurukul students went to Eastfield College after, and there was a Spanish teacher there, Ana Pifardi, and she had so many devotee kids coming through her class, and she started to notice them hanging out together. And so she started asking them, like, there's something different about you all. Tell me your story. And so she was curious. And so they told her, oh yeah, we all went to this school and we grew up in this community. And so then she ended up coming. She wanted to come to see the temple. And she had lunch with Mother Jayanti and all the students at the restaurant and took a tour of the community. So just by the way the kids were behaving, by their, she said they were like the best behaved students she ever had, never complained. And so she naturally was curious and wanting to ask more questions. So in a similar way, as devotees in the community, we develop this mood that you're sharing in the class. I feel like it will do that. Anybody who walks through the door will wonder, what's going on here? Something's different. They'll naturally want to ask questions, and we'll be able to share Krishna with them in such a mature way. But thank you so much. Very inspiring class, Prabhu.
Thank you, Nrsimha Rupa Prabhu. Thank you for your services and encouragement. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai.
I'd like to end with a quote from His Grace Prabhu here. He said that we come to Krishna consciousness, we joined not to change the devotees, but to change ourselves. 11 o'clock, there'll be more information about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and I imagine a Pushpanjali. Class, offerings, kirtan, and quite possibly prasadam. So, Hare Krishna.